It is time for another edition of the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, I'm Jason Floyd. That is the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. We're here to talk UFC Vegas 106. Goes down on Saturday afternoon at the UFC Apex there in Las Vegas, Nevada. Lock time going to be 4 p.m. Eastern time with your prelims. Main card, 7 p.m. Eastern time, going to be headlined by a matchup in the welterweight division that is just old school matchmaking by the UFC. You got the young up-and-comer in Michael Morales taking on the guy that's been around for a long time, Gilbert Burns. Pete, how's it going, man?
What's up, Jason Floyd? Old school matchmaking for this card. Very surprising to see some of the odds and some of the lines for this matchup, especially on the main event and throughout the entire card. You know, it's not the best card by any means. I'm going to be very, very busy because my dad's MMA show is actually this weekend. It's on a Sunday, and it's going to be a daytime MMA on Sunday, but the weigh-ins will be taking place while this UFC card is kicking off. So, man, I'll try to watch them, but I don't think I'm going to be able to watch them. And I guess if I'm missing a card, I'm happy I'm missing this one.
Yeah, I won't. For the most part, I will not be able to watch this fight card live either. And yeah, kind of like you, we'll talk about when we get into game theory. You know, especially the lines on the main event, co-main event. Really, the main event really stuck out to me. Just how wide of a line it is. You know, obviously not surprised that Michael Morales is fair, but just how big of a favorite he was. Of course, we come in following UFC 315, which took place on Saturday there in Montreal. We have a new welterweight champion, Jack Della Maddalena, getting a decision win against Belal Muhammad. Valentin Shevchenko retains the flyweight title, and Jack Della Maddalena, apparently he just hates all of us MMA fans because now we're not going to get Makhachev and Topuria. Most likely Topuria now going up, or at least expectations is he's going to go up to 170 pounds and challenge for the welterweight title here. And look, last week I was very defiant. I really liked Belal Muhammad, and true full disclosure, my biggest bet of the night was on Belal Muhammad to go out there and win via finish. I thought he would be able to get the takedowns. In the moment, I think my general thought process was, man, what was Belal's game plan here? But I think, really digesting a fight, I think more is just got to give credit to Jack Della Maddalena for making Belal Muhammad fight his fight.
Yeah, Jack Della Maddalena is my guy. I've been flag planting and saying that he's legit. I left that fight, just disappointed. I would have much rather Jack Della knocked him out. I mean, or been tested on the ground significantly. That was literally the worst game plan in a very long time, executed by Belal Muhammad. And I know that you're saying we got to give credit to Jack Della Maddalena. For 2 rounds, the first 2 rounds, you did not really try to wrestle. You saw what Gilbert Burns did. You saw what Basso Hafez did. I don't know if there was an injury. I don't know if it was a lack of trusting his gas tank. No open mat takedowns, which is really where Jack Della Maddalena struggles. Or even against the cage, man, attempt some takedowns and make this just an MMA bout. Even Ange Lusa on the freaking Contender Series a long time ago had success. And, the bout fired me up because I still cash my lineups with 3 losing fighters. I had Kudalaba, Manon Fiorot, and Belal Muhammad. Granted, a lot of those losing fighters had a ton of chalk attached to them, but they still went out there, and Kudalaba should have won that fight. Belal Muhammad should have had a hell of a lot more takedowns than he did. What, he scored 78 in a 5-round bout where he didn't execute a single takedown until round 3. And then Manon Fiorot, the striker, decides to grab. It was just a weird night for me, and I just totally did not think that Belal Muhammad would go out there and truly believe that he has Canelo hands and was going to strike with one of the best, I could say it, one-dimensional fighters out there. I mean, Jack Della, he's good, but man, oh man, I don't know. I just would have much rather Jack Della Maddalena knocked him out. Okay, I got that fight wrong. I still feel like out of 10 fights, Belal Muhammad wins the majority of those. But this is the thing, right? We can break down these fights, Jason. I can give you all the stats. I can give you my projections. We went 8-4 on the night on my Patreon, by the way. But it's who's better that night. You know what I mean? It's really all it is. And that's why MMA is very, very difficult. It's like the Super Bowl. There's no redos. There's no best of 3, best of 5, best of 7. It's one time, unless you obviously have a rematch. But yeah, I don't know. You could tell that fight fired me up and left a bad taste in my mouth. And I got the main event and the co-main event wrong. That doesn't happen all too often.
over to Score Channel, the best comment of the weekend came yesterday afternoon. I get these notifications on my phone, and I thought maybe my phone just screwed up and gave me a notification from Saturday afternoon, not Sunday afternoon. Gotta give credit to Neil B over here. Yesterday, 1:52 p.m. Eastern Time. Pumped for the fights tonight. Had a crazy dream where Bilal tried to strike with JDM.
Yes, dude, I forgot about that. I forgot about that message because I woke up or I saw it the day after and I was laughing my ass off. I was like, that's exactly. I mean, Bilal, the wrestler, decided to strike, and Manon Fiorot, the striker, decided to wrestle. Very, very odd. MMA at its finest. But what can we do other than move on? Still a winning week. Not the best, as far as like where our standards are set, but time to hopefully dominate this upcoming low-level card that we have this week.
I do want to send a special thank you out to Benoit Saint Denis for waiting for the over 1.5 rounds to expire by 5 seconds, so my bet cashed.
You played over 1.5. You ballsy man.
Oh, it was a ballsy move, but it was plus money, and I was like, you know what? Maybe he toys with his,
What were the odds on that?
I want to say I got like plus 160 or something along those lines. And so like, oh man,
all that first for plus 160.
that first round ends. I'm sweating it. I'm like, and we get to the 3-minute mark, and I'm just like, okay, man. All right, someone just go. Come on, Kyle, go for a takedown. Burn some time out here.
Yeah,
and get there by 5 seconds. I thought Natalia Silva looked really well. Grosso, to me, like, watch that fight. I was like, she does realize this is a 3-round fight because she just gave away essentially 2 rounds, and Natalia Silva just sat there on the outside. And one of the things that I loved what Silva was doing was how much she was feinting with those leg kicks.
My God, bro. She looked like she was salsa dancing out there. I mean, she was fainting, and I'm like, is this fight in fast motion, or is she really doing all this herky-jerky, fainting and faking? And I was pretty surprised. I mean, I wasn't surprised by Natalia Silva's performance, but I thought that maybe Alexa Grasso would look better. But it goes to show you, when you're so accustomed to 5-round fights, or you just had 3 of them. Now you go to three-round environment. It's completely there's no giveaway rounds. You can't work into the fight. You got to get going. Or if you do give a round away, you better start coming out there in round 2 and round 3. And she just had no answer, man. Like, she had no answer for the footwork and the movement. And she was the bull, and Natalia Silva was clearly the matador in a very, very one-sided fight.
Double J looked great in that win against Jessica Andrade. I mean, really the only question I had really going forward with her is what happens if she can't get the takedown. But she looked great. Absolutely brutal knockout by Marc-Andre Barrios. All signs kind of point to Bruno Silva likely sounds like career's going to be over. Is that basically he just doesn't want to do this anymore? I mean, just in a very scary knockout, the fact of just laying on, I mean, me and you both were on this fight game. When a fighter is down on the ground that long, that's a doctor decision.
Yeah. It reminded me of the MVP Cyborg Santos fight where he hit him with the flying knee and cracked the skull and then threw a Pokemon ball at him. Like, that was pretty devastating because he fractured his skull. Very similar thing, just different location. Takes a lot for that to happen, right? And hope Bruno Silva's recovering well. It's been clear he hasn't been the same in quite some time, whether it was motivation. And that's why, like Dana White says, if you're thinking about retirement, do it. Because this whole 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing, it's a dangerous game. You're not playing football. You're not playing basketball. You're fighting. And the guy opposite of you or the woman across from you is trying to take all your dreams away from you. And your health is on the line. So you know what I mean? So get out while you still can. But the problem is, we know that R word, that retirement word, is the hardest thing for fighters to grasp because they don't have backup plans. Legitimately, they don't have backup plans. And we see it week in, week out. Jose Aldo retires. Does he really? I don't know. Doesn't really get the curtain call as he should. You know what I mean? Like, they should have done a crazy promotion. But I almost think they weren't really expecting that. Yeah. I mean, it was like I think it was more because he lost. And like I said to you, it's like 5 years ago, you tell me Zahabi beats Jose Aldo, I'm laughing in your face. But I think it's what happens. And it was a very, very close fight. the third round getting soccer kicked. I mean, credit to Zahabi for being so tough, but I could have seen that fight going either way. Granted, I told you told me how you scored it. I said I scored it 2-1 for my parlays. So I scored it 2-1 Zahabi.
I had 2-1 Aldo. I mean, I just I think the optics of the last 2 minutes of that fight really weighed the judges. And there's times where I feel like judges forget about what happened in the first 2 minutes of a round, and outweigh in that, and what happens in the last 2 minutes outweighs what happened. Close fight. The fact that there was no kind of quote unquote send off for Jose Aldo tells me the UFC was very unaware that maybe this was even in his headset. I mean, it's never a good look when the fighter looks up with 3 minutes to go in the final round.
Nice, bro. That was a meme in itself. I mean, that was crazy.
That was a bad look there. But yeah, you know me. I don't believe that R word. Never have, never will, because the GSPs and the Habibs, they're the absolute rarity in the sport of people who truly walk away from this sport. But we do got to move ahead to UFC Vegas 106. Of course, come up here on Saturday. And, you mentioned about, the initial thoughts on this fight card was just kind of like where the salaries sit and the betting lines sit this week. You look at the main event, Gilbert Burns, a plus 550 betting underdog. He's 6,500 DK. Michael Morales, a 9.5 to 1 betting favorite. He's 9,700. Rafael Bellato, he's at 9,400 this week. You got an interesting matchup at lightweight with Sodiq Yusuff and Santos, both of them moving up to 155 pounds for that matchup. That is kind of interesting. I look at Stoltzfus and Ruziboev. I think that's probably going to be a fight that you need to prioritize for GPPs just because of really Dustin Stoltzfus has shown, either he's going to win by finish or he's going to get stopped. Me and Juicy J, even though second fight in a month, $7,500 price tag, Costa's been on a roll. That one really kind of stuck out to me from a price point aspect. I don't know how many people know Matheus Camilo. He is actually, if you've not seen the new episode, Dana White Looking for a Fight, he is a fighter, one of 2 fighters who got signed on this episode. You remember the guy that asked for Dana White for a fight at the press conference? That's the guy he beat. He beat him. So they were there to watch the guy from the press conference, and then homeboy Camilo just beats him. Yeah. He's a Vegas guy, trains at Extreme Couture. He got brought in, and he basically what he did was he weathered the early storm of takedowns. Opponent was very one-dimensional. Camilo really did show his striking aspect of it. And then I'll sit here and say, like, my other major thought of game theory is, hey, you ready to roster a 9,300 Tisha Pennington?
Yeah, right. You're going to, I don't know, bro. I think Luana isn't good, but I just think price tag, how the hell am I going to pay 9,300? This is my first reaction to the salaries because I've been busy all day. And I did the projections. I haven't done the strength of schedule yet. Did the pace and all of that. Just now seeing the salaries and man, pretty wide. Exactly like you said, wide main event, very wide co-main event. Interesting fight between Santos and Yusuff. Ruziboev and Stoltzfus seems to be a very volatile fight, one that we're going to have to smash exposure to. Mm-hmm. I would probably say the same thing for the Costa and Julian Erosa fight. Mm-hmm. Every Julian Erosa fight, every time he's on the card, big unknowns in the Camilo. Like how is he against UFC competition? Gabe Green does have some wins over UFC competition. Is that fight at lightweight? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Gabe Green at lightweight?
First time Gabe Green fights at lightweight since 2018.
Yeah, and he's how old? 32? Bro, the fuck?
To me, he wasn't big enough for 170 in the UFC.
He's too big for 55.
Well, we'll see if he makes weight.
Yeah, god damn, this guy, I'm looking at the Tapology, 5'10". I just think people start to search for answers and they get a little desperate and drop in weight. They think it's going to help them. if he's too small for 170, bumping up to 185, I think sometimes you're better off going up. But if you're small frame-wise, that ain't going to help. The Gordon and Moises fight I do find as interesting given the price tag and the pace of Gordon. And then a bunch of women's MMA that I'm not too interested in. And then we got the grappler HyunSung and HyunSung Park. So, man, let's see where you lie on some of these fights. If you agree with me, disagree with me. And as always, guys, thank you for joining us. And please don't forget, hit that like button for us. Try to get us to 150 likes every time. It does the channel, big things. It really helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it.
Of course, let's get right into the main event. It is a welterweight matchup between Gilbert Burns and Michael Morales. Morales, a minus 950 betting favorite here, plus 550 for Gilbert Burns. On the DraftKings side of this equation, Morales 9,700, Burns is at 6,500. This matchup was actually supposed to take place last week, got moved to this fight card a couple weeks ago because they needed a main event for this fight card. Gilbert Burns, he's lost 3 in a row against Bilal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, and most recently Sean Brady. 5 of his last 7 fights have gone the distance. For Michael Morales, this is his first UFC main event. And according to Tapology, the first time he has a scheduled 5-round fight in his pro career. 5-0 in the UFC, wins against Magny, Matheus, Griffin, Fouguet, and Giles. But the one thing, the 2 notes that, Pete, really stick out to me is you've got a major age difference here. Gilbert Burns, nearly 13 years older than Michael Morales. But on the Morales side of the equation, an 8-inch reach advantage.
What the fuck is going on in my house? I got dogs barking. I hear a vacuum. I got pots banging. I got babies crying. I mean, I hope you guys don't hear it all, but I apologize if you do. To Jason's point, like major youth advantage for Michael Morales, 13 years younger, big height and reach advantage for Morales as well. 10 inches in the height plus reach department. Big test here, 5-round fight against Gilbert Burns. Are you legit or not? Because Gilbert Burns has been up against the best in the division in multiple divisions, been around forever, dangerous jiu-jitsu, very underrated wrestling too, and I don't feel like a lot of people appreciate that form of his game. Very good power, somewhat sketchy durability, but every now and then in certain fights it checks out, right? Like that Khamzat Chimaev fight was an absolute war. That fight was crazy, but it has been some years from now. In general, when I look at their metrics, right, I view Michael Morales as the higher paced fighter. This grades out as an above average fight pace, especially with the 5 rounds that we do have in this bout. 5.42 strikes landed per minute for Michael Morales, 3.17 for Gilbert Burns. Translates to about 11 strikes attempted per minute for Morales and 6 for Gilbert Burns. So, the striking defense is very similar. It's not like one guy's exceptional in that department, one guy's poor. They're both sitting at 52%. The wrestling portion of this is something I feel is interesting because I don't expect Gilbert Burns to be able to take down the very solid wrestling of Mike Morales as much as he has been in other matchups. I actually think that Michael Morales can land some takedowns, but do you want to? Khamzat Chimaev chose not to wrestle with Gilbert Burns for a reason. He's, it's like putting yourself in harm's way from that dangerous jiu-jitsu that Gilbert Burns has. Granted, Morales did show some chinks in that armor in the matchup against Neil Magny. But for the most part, in the wrestling department, he's the guy that dictates the pace. He's the guy that pins his opponents against the cage. He's the guy that ensures that he's not getting put in bad positions. And I think that he can complement some rounds by adding some takedowns if he needs to, but he can also use that wrestling in a defensive manner and keep it upright. So for me, like I understand that the, per 25 minutes, Gilbert Burns has 3.5 takedowns per 25, which translates to about 9 takedowns attempted this bout. I just don't see him being able to do that to Michael Morales with a 92% takedown defense. If anything, I think Michael Morales could put a stamp on a round, land a takedown or 2 throughout the fight, but predominantly use that height and reach advantage, use that athleticism, use the footwork, and just kind of work his way over the course of 25 minutes or possibly hurt Gilbert Burns, who has shown some chinks in that durability armor from time to time. So I know it's a massive, massive number. and it's almost like an auto value bet for betting Gilbert Burns, I'll probably do that with small money just because of the number that it's sitting at. But for DFS and just everything in general, I do think that there is some significant upside in rostering Michael Morales. At 9,700, though, does it pay off? I mean, this is a guy in 2 3-round fights scored 64.8 and 63.8. But when he's able to find a finish, 99.8, 117.8, 116.9. So do we think he finds a finish or not? I don't know, man. I'm probably just going to take the chalk of the 9,700 and move on, especially if I can afford it. And, my model does like it a lot, does like Michael Morales a lot in this spot. So give me Michael Morales to pull it off.
One thing that I was thinking about when I was putting together my notes for the fight was kind of thinking about is, paying off the price tag because, look, I would not expect Michael Morales to try to gauge it in the grappling because that's where Gilbert Burns got the best shot to win here. But I'm just like, man, is there a pathway to say 120 points at 9,700? That's just my kind of concern with it. We'll see where ownership kind of lies here. We haven't seen, what happens if this thing does hit minute 16? What does hit minute 20? What does Michael Morales look like? I mean, this is old school UFC matchmaking. Let's just call it what it is. This is what it is. But also I sit there and say is, even though Morales has gotten a step up in competition every time out, this is a relatively noticeable jump up from Neil Magny to Gilbert Burns here. I mean, the pick's going to be Michael Morales here, but from a fantasy score upside, I just have concerns of whether or not he can pay off that $9,700 price tag.
I think it's fair concerns, right? And there's one thing that I do want to mention, and it's kind of a reflection of last week, where I was big on Manon Fiorot, right? And you knew it was her biggest step up in competition. But we haven't truly seen her deal with adversity yet. She was met with adversity with that lead right hook from Valentina Shevchenko, and it seemed to turn the complete tide of the fight and change the game plan and just completely I don't know. I mean, she checked out. She's definitely tough, and she's definitely game. But I do think that when you witness a fighter deal with adversity for the very first time, or you haven't seen it yet, it's okay to be cautious and bet the underdog because we haven't seen Michael Morales other than the A side in every single fight. What happens if he's a B side in certain moments? He's undefeated for a reason, but Gilbert Burns is legit, and this is why it's old school matchmaking. But I do think that he's skilled enough. I think he's young enough. He's big enough for the division, and I think he's going to pass the test that is Gilbert Burns.
I would be, from the betting side of this equation, this is where I would be prop game hunting. I would not touch a 950, just because of first UFC main event. Obviously you see the true ceiling of Michael Morales in this division, but I don't want to pay that price tag. So that's where when we get the props later on the week, when we get to Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, where's that over 3.5 sit at? Where is that Michael Morales wins via decision? From the DraftKings side of the equation, if you're playing in cash game type contest, head-to-head contest, I don't think I would mind rostering Gilbert Burns just because of the price tag, and especially if you think this thing goes 25 minutes at 6,500. Pete, if he goes out there and gets you 50 points, I mean, hell, that sets you up in a great position.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you with the punt if it goes that long. 50 points is great at that price. I mean, I would love to see what the Sims or what the ownership is going to be on Burns. But it's almost like DraftKings is with how wide the odds are, right? Especially for DFS. It's almost like they're expecting him to get finished, or his wrestling is not going to be able to work in this matchup. So how does he outstrike the big guy that has 10 inches in the height plus reach department, who's 13 years younger? It just seems to be like an uphill climb, and one that the market seems to be out on Gilbert Burns, and I do think that they are slightly underrating his potential.
Next up, the co-main event, we got Bellato taking on Craig. Bellato, a 5-1 betting favorite here. Paul Craig plus 350. Over on DraftKings side of the equation, Bellato 9,400. Paul Craig is going to be 6,800. Of course, Rodolfo Bellato 1-1 in the 1-1 in the UFC majority draw against Jimmy Crute there back in February. 11 of his 12 wins have come via finish. High volume striker. landing 6.28 strikes per minute. Well, that's the good side of the story. The bad side of the story is he's absorbing 6.31 strikes per minute in UFC competition. On the other side, Paul Craig lost 3 in a row against Brandon Allen, Kyle Barala, and Bo Nickel. A 500 fighter in the UFC, 9 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw. All of his UFC wins have come via finish, and some of his 9 losses in UFC have come by a finish. And 8-year age difference between these two. I mean, look, we all know the upside of Paul Craig, but man, you never feel good rostering him.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to see Paul Craig in another underdog spot, but at such a significant price. You know what I mean? Like, Bellato's a big favorite and relatively untested in the UFC. Is 8 years younger, as you mentioned, does have 1.5 inches in the height plus reach department. Very, very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, big guy, very good takedown defense so far in the UFC, sitting at 100%. And he's going up against a guy in Paul Craig, who's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, more of a guard player, and a guy that will pull guard or will start to drop for leg locks. Not a guy that's really going to go out there and push the wrestling pace or is strong enough or skilled enough to chain takedowns together like a true wrestler or a true grappler will. And that's the problem here. And I think that's, again, very similar to the main event where you have an underdog that has a path, but the path is completely blocked by the wrestling or grappling skills of his opponent. And Rodolfo and Bellato, is a big guy, definitely has the striking advantage. Rodolfo Bellato is tough, throws at nearly double volume, 6.28 significant strikes landed per minute, 2.52 significant strikes landed per minute for Craig, but in the attempted is where it's doubled. 10 attempted for Bellato, 5.7 attempted for Craig. And, they both have poor striking defense according to the metrics. 43% for Paul Craig, 46% for Rodolfo Bellato. But I tell you what, I just don't trust Paul Craig in a striking matchup if this is one. I've seen Paul Craig's chin get cracked. I just think, again, it's a blocked pathway to victory. I don't see Paul Craig getting on top of him or getting into an advantageous position unless a knockdown occurs. He's not a big swinger. A back take could happen. A fluky submission could happen, especially if this becomes a dogfight and he gets tired. Bellato gets tired. But, I like what I've seen so far. He's definitely a walking punching bag. But Paul Craig can't punch that well. So I think that it's Rodolfo Bellato's fight to lose here. I think that he goes out there and wins I think he wins a decision, but I can totally see him finishing Paul Craig. But the Paul Craig is just pretty wise of dropping to his back, trying to lure you in. And I would love to see Bellato engage in that because, I like watching grappling. I do think Bellato is the side to pick here. Way more volume. If Bellato wants to get takedowns, Paul Craig will accept the takedown. So Paul Craig's takedown defense sits at 37%. So he's just too willing to be on his back for me. And you know me, I'm not a backer of fighters playing guard in MMA. I'm just not. I mean, very, very few fighters out there can pull it off. Paul Craig is one of them, but not in this matchup. So give me Rodolfo Bellato here. Wide price tag though. And I was surprised. $9,700 for Michael Morales. $9,400 for Bellato. I mean, I could see why Bellato's going to get a ton of ownership, but I think I'm just going to take the chance on Morales, maybe, having to go to that wrestling or having to pick up the pace in a really competitive fight against Gilbert Burns. So I like Morales over Bellato in a 1-for-1, but they're both very, very good options this week.
I might go to Bellato just to save the $300. Okay. It is a smaller cage. I mean, the one thing about Paul Craig is, he would be, he's ready to flop to his back. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's where he wants to be. But when you were talking about, the potential Bellato win by decision, my initial thought went to, that's going to be a juicy prop. That's going to be a prop that you're going to get, I think, some good plus money on that just because of the history, particularly of Paul Craig. Paul Craig's just a guy that just does go to decision. But yeah, to me, and then just kind of looking on the other side of the equation, if you're looking for a punt play, would I rather roster Burns or Paul Craig? I'd much rather go with Burns because of the 5-round nature.
Agreed. Totally agree on that. So.
And Paul Craig there's not volume there to where you can get points there with strikes. Let's move over to our next matchup. We got two featherweights who are moving up to the 155-pound division of this matchup. You got Sodiq Yusuff and Mairon Santos. Santos a minus 130 betting favorite, plus 110 for Yusuff on the other side. On the DraftKings side of the equation, 8,300 for Santos, 7,900 for Yusuff. This will be the first time we see Sodiq Yusuff in 13 months, coming off that loss against Diego Lopez prior to that, losing to Edson Barboza. Santos, we got introduced to him on season 2 of the Ultimate Fighter. He won the featherweight tournament on Tough 32, coming off a split decision in March against Francis Marshall. Pete, what's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very interesting fight. I have it as a slow-paced fight. Not a crazy slow pace, but below average. I think that Sodiq Yusuff has shown he has hands for days. Very, very talented. Sketchy durability at times. Definitely a stronger strength of schedule. So he gets that UFC veteran edge, if you will. But given this matchup, I mean, he is fighting a fighter who is 7 years younger than him. Mairon Santos also has 1 inch in the height plus reach department. Very similar, striking metrics. And if you're looking at it, it's quite interesting. So I can totally see why people want to get behind Sodiq Yusuff in a low volume decision because he's talented enough. He's fought better competition. Maybe he'll feel better at this weight class. That goes both ways, though, right? Like both fighters are going to be fighting at this weight class, so maybe they're going to feel refreshed, reinvigorated, energized. 4.14 strikes landed per minute for Santos, 5.66 for Sodiq Yusuff. So that translates to Yusuff throwing 11.5 per minute and Santos throwing 9. But if you look at the striking defense, it's a slight difference there. Sodiq Yusuff has 53% in the striking defense rating, and Mairon Santos has a 70% rating in the striking defense. And he's the A side in the fight, striking wise, right? So I'm interested to see if that 70% is true or if it's elevated due to who he's fought. It looks good, but you're going up against guys that are not going to outstrike you or not going to test you in that department. So could it be elevated because of low competition? And that's kind of what I'm thinking it might be. If anybody's going to attempt takedowns here, it is going to be Sodiq Yusuff, attempting like 1.5 per fight. And all in all, this comes out to be a very, very close fight. If the 70% striking defensive rating is legit enough, then Mairon Santos squeaks by with a close decision. If it is overblown and elevated and a little overvalued, then I think that in reality, Sodiq Yusuff, being the UFC veteran, being an equal in the striking department, has the takedowns if he needs them. I think that he can steal this fight. I really do. So my model, my projections has Santos edging this one out, largely due to the youth advantage and the height plus reach advantage of 1 inch. Not only that, it's the 70% striking defensive rating, as I mentioned several times. I'm going to go with Santos here, Jason, but I really don't hate like people that want to get behind a Sodiq Yusuff just in a low volume fight. But it's not like he's at a crazy price tag. I like him if he was like 7,200, 7,900, 8,300 for Santos. It just seems like a stay away fight for me, like a one where it's not going to be optimal unless there's a finish. I just don't see the volume attached to it. So yeah, I'll pick Santos ever so slightly. I think the odds do have it right, but I wouldn't blame any Yusuff backers out there, but it's one where I'm not going to prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I think about is the fact of, Sodiq has been away from competition for the last
Right.
year. Kind of what's been going on there. And obviously this is a relatively big step up in competition here for Santos in comparison to who he's competed with so far in his career. Next up, we got Stoltzfus taking on Ruziboev. Ruziboev a minus 290 betting favorite, 9,000 on DraftKings. Stoltzfus a plus 235 betting underdog. He is 7,200 over there on DraftKings. Stoltzfus has alternated wins and losses in his last 5 fights after starting 0-3 in the UFC. His last 4 fights have all ended in the first or second round. Ruziboev 3-1 in the UFC. All of his wins in the promotion come in the first or second round, coming off a TKO win early on there in the second round in his last matchup there back in February. And the one note that I have on this fight is Stoltzfus' path to victory takedowns. Averages 2.31 takedowns per 15 minutes of fighting. And when you look at the one loss that Ruziboev has in the UFC, was against a guy that we would look at as, clearly a top 10 guy. Maybe he's a top 5 guy in Joaquin Buckley. Buckley took him down 4 times in that fight, Pete.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's exactly what I'm going to bring up in this matchup. You have a striker in Nursulton Ruziboev, and Dustin Stoltzfus here. Striker versus grappler, striker versus wrestler. The volume of Ruziboev is low. Strikes landed per minute, 2.75. Stoltzfus sitting at 3.47. The strikes attempted, though, based off their accuracy, is 6 for Ruziboev and 7.8 for Stoltzfus. So I do think the harder shots are clearly for Ruziboev. He's used to getting finishes. He's used to finding finishes, whether it's with a knockout or with a submission. Hits really, really hard as Cedricus Dumas. But in the takedown department, as Jason just mentioned, you hear Ruziboev, you think has good wrestling, and then you watch some tape on him. And his one regional fight that I saw, I think it was back in 2019. Granted, sometime from now, his opponent was able to get inside the punches and start grappling, and off of his back, Ruziboev just was really not doing a lot that impressed me. He was hunting certain submissions and playing jiu-jitsu off of his back, and there was no urgency, and he seemed to be controlled pretty well in that matchup. And then I watched some tape on the Joaquin Buckley fight, and I'm like, I mean, there's a path for Stoltzfus here. There really is, but it has to be with takedowns. That's the only logical way. Ruziboev could land a takedown himself because Stoltzfus' takedown defense sits at 46%. But if Stoltzfus goes out there and laces up those wrestling shoes, Jason, granted, it's from the Joaquin Buckley fight, Ruziboev's takedown defense sits at 0%. So, I mean, he was taken down and controlled all 4. He didn't stuff a single one against Joaquin Buckley. But Buckley is clearly way better, way more threatening in the stand-up department. So maybe that's why he was able to land the takedowns so often in that bout. But when I look at what Stoltzfus brings to the game, 2.31 takedowns per 15 minutes, 41% accuracy, he's attempting 5.6 per 15 minutes. If that takedown defense is truly a 0, then we're going to get a ton of takedowns. We're going to get 5.6 takedowns, and we're going to get some control time associated with that. I would probably say it's around 40 to 50%. I do think he can defend some takedowns, but I think that Stoltzfus can also elevate that number even more after watching tape. He's a very talented grappler. He has gotten some knockouts when he needs to, and I actually think that his striking getting a little bit better is going to open up his wrestling. So the pace favors Stoltzfus here too when you combine the strikes and the takedowns. This is a fight that I'm going to get to a lot, and there's no way that I can look at this fight and say, I think an $1,800 difference makes sense. I think that Stoltzfus and Ruziboev should be close, or I was expecting an $8,500 for Ruziboev. That's fine, but given where Stoltzfus is at 7,200, I mean, he's 16-6 overall. He has been knocked out. He was knocked out against Bruno Ferreira. He was also knocked out against Magomedov. But I'm going to take some chances, right? Sometimes you have to take some ugly shots in the dark. And I think that Stoltzfus' path to victory is clearly there for him for the taking. Ruziboev training out of Marquez BJJ with the team in Philly, formerly Renzo Gracie Philly. Very, very talented room. Big bodies. Stoltzfus also has fought somebody from that camp before and slammed him. So, I mean, I think that Stoltzfus is just talented in the wrestling department. Very strong and deceptive. I mean, he slammed Joe Pyfer and won that bout via injury on the Contender Series. But I'm going to have to take some shots somewhere, and I think it's a little wide. So I'm going to go Dustin Stoltzfus here. He could get knocked out in 60 seconds, but I'm going to go Stoltzfus here. This fight in general is one that I'm just going to smash.
Yeah, I feel like it is a fight, and when we're talking about GPP contest, that I think it's a fight you got to prioritize on both sides of the equation, whether you want to look at the value of Stoltzfus, if he's able to get that takedown, but also the fact of when Stoltzfus loses, it is typically early on in a matchup. So to me, it's a priority on both sides of that equation. Samuel, appreciate your super chat. Yeah, we'll get that contest up here early. I'll try to get that contest. Usually Tuesdays are sometimes tend to be light days for me. Don't always tend to be that way. Mondays are typically my busiest days of the week. Next up, we got Julian Erosa taking on Costa here. Costa, a 2-1 betting favorite, 8,700 on DK. Erosa, plus 170 betting underdog, 7,500 on DK. Julian Erosa, 8-3 since coming in the UFC since coming back in 2022. He's won 3 in the row, all in the first round against Ramos Rodriguez. And most recently, exactly 1 month ago to today, against Darren Elkins. We look at Costa on the other side. He's also won 3 in a row after starting 1 and 2 in the UFC. He's coming off decision winning against Christian Rodriguez back in March. And this has been a super active fighter so far in 2025, Pete. This will be his 3rd fight of this calendar year.
Yeah, 3rd fight for Costa. I mean, we just saw Erosa not too long ago, as you mentioned, back in April against Darren Elkins. You know, that's a lot of weight cuts. That's a lot of weight cuts for a fighter. And granted, there has been time between the fights. But in general, I mean, like if you're blowing up, cutting, like when are you not in camp? I mean, some people live it like a lifestyle, which I live. I'm a martial artist, so that's how I am. I do feel like Melquizael Costa is kind of similar to that, where he's just constantly in the gym. I mean, those are the best types of athletes out there, right? Not getting fat, not getting out of shape, not having to really focus on the weight cut, just staying active and living it like a lifestyle. But I mean, you're not lying. February 22nd, March 29th, and now it's going to be May 17th. So it's like, all right, that is a lot on the body. You know, I love this fight. Let me just say, I love this fight. This fight is probably my most exposed fight if I had to make lineups today. Like, it will be my most exposed fight given the pace model. I just truly love it. I think that Costa is coming into his own. Very, very talented striker, excellent kicker, good submission skills as well. Going up against Julian Erosa, high volume striker, very, very good hands, questionable durability throughout his entire career. Seems to have, turned a corner as far as that is considered. But, he's game. If you don't have cardio, he will push you. And if you don't have jiu-jitsu, he will expose you and he'll choke you out. So I'm very, very interested for this bout. 3.86 significant strikes landed per minute for Melquizael Costa, which translates to 7.8 strikes attempted. 6.4 strikes landed per minute for Julian Erosa, which translates to 13 strikes attempted per minute for Mr. Julian Juicy J Erosa. So, man, that's almost double the attempted. Way more aggressive, gets in your face. He'll start walking you down. I do think that the range of this fight could really, it's going to matter significantly. If Costa keeps Erosa at kicking range, I think he has a field day. But if Costa starts to turn this into a boxing match with Erosa, good luck. You're going to get out volume. You're going to fatigue. And I think that you're going to be a step behind because Erosa throws in combinations. The combinations I see from Melquizael Costa are a lot of kick-oriented combinations, which, trust me, I love it. But I just don't know if that is – if he doesn't use his kicks, he's not, fighting to his best ability. The takedowns landed per 15 minutes are very, very similar. 1.95 for Costa, 1.63 for Erosa. More attempted for Costa, 5.7 and 3.3 for Erosa. So it does make sense, right? Like Costa is usually able to backpack people, chain takedowns together in very close competitive fights. Striking volume favors Erosa. Slight grappling volume favors Melquizael Costa. But I think truthfully that people could just still be sleeping on Julian Erosa's skills everywhere. I mean, he's 31-12 in MMA. That's absurd. Costa's 7 years younger, but in the height plus reach department, Erosa has 6.5 inches. Jason, it's not like he's a favorite. He's an underdog. So I'm going to be signing up for some Julian Erosa. Give me some Juicy J here. I think at 7,500, I mean, the guy just consistently counted out. He's not going up against a one-hitter quitter. It's not like I really have to worry about, Costa knocking him out. Sure, it could happen. A club and sub can also happen. But in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 6 UFC fights, Costa hasn't even landed a knockdown. I mean, we did see fighters that aren't necessarily known for their KO ability, like in Alex Caceres knock out Julian Erosa. It could happen. It could be a head kick, and that's all she wrote. But I'm going to back the underdog. I like it when Juicy J is an underdog. I can get behind that a lot more, especially when he brings volume. So give me Julian Erosa to pull off the upset.
There's one stat I'm going to throw at you that you didn't mention. I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention it.
What? What is it?
Costa's been taken down 11 times in his last 3 fights.
Yeah.
And so, by the way, and Erosa just got his black belt from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu there in Vegas.
Bro,
it's one of those things of when I was doing my research, I was kind of thinking, I was like, you know what, even though when I think of Erosa, I think of him staying in range and striking. Yeah. And also I do think about the volatility of Juicy J. I mean, let's just call, even though he's been on this great run, since coming back from promotion, we do know there's some volatility there. I sat there and I just wondered, do I look at Eric Nixick and how much of his thought process has been is Christian Rodriguez took him down 6 times in his last matchup. How much does he sit there and say, hey, yeah, we know who you are, Juicy J, but the path to taking this fight to the ground is there. I'm going to take the underdog shot here in Juicy J. Yeah, and just because of looking at trying to find some value on this card and value where I think we have a high fantasy score upside. So I'll go with Julian Rosa just like you in that one. Next up, we got Gabe Green taking on Matheus Camilo. Camilo is 8,600 here, 7,600 here for Gabe Green. For people who have not watched the new episode, Dana White Looking for a Fight, Matheus was on that episode. He was actually the B-side of the matchup, and he impressed Dana White so much. Dana White gave him a contract there. He has won 6 in a row, trains at Extreme Couture. Gabe Green on the other side, dropping down to the lightweight division. Last time he fought lightweight was in 2018. He's lost back-to-back fights, and this is the first time we see him since that loss to Brian Battle, which was back on May the 13th of 2023, Pete.
Yeah, way too many unknowns for me, right? Like, I know Gabe Green has some big wins, but it's just like, where have you been? I mean, and going down as you get older doesn't really make all that much sense to me. It seems like he's searching for answers or searching for a division where he can dominate. Granted, it could work out, right? Like, if he's going up against Camilo here, and Camilo looks to implement some wrestling to try to get another fantastic submission, he could just be too big, and he could just shrug him off. There are several questions here. And it makes me hesitate a little bit to pull the trigger on either one of these fighters. Camilo's in a prove it spot, right? Like, prove that you can beat a guy that has a few UFC wins. Not really the best, even though if it was a weight class above. But let's call it what it is, right? Like, I don't have any stats on Camilo other than the fact that he's a Brazilian prospect, looks pretty talented. In the submission department, a little bit better than in the strike. I mean, in general, he's 9-2. His opponent, Gabe Green, is 11-5. He's coming off a very nice unanimous decision over the fighter that you mentioned from the press conference. Nabatov. He has an armbar. He has the Kimura. The Kimura is the one that I was seeing on Fury FC. I thought that was the most recent. It's not. The Dorian Ramos one, also an armbar. So, like, he is an opportunistic submission fighter, but he does have 4 knockouts to his credit. So I just think he's a dangerous lightweight for Gabe Green. But, again, just massive, massive question marks surrounding Gabe Green. Let's talk about, like, physical advantages. We're going to see Gabe Green. He's going to be an inch taller. We don't have the reach on Camilo yet, according to Tapology. So that's not helpful. Let's see if we have it on UFC stats yet. We do. 2 inches. No, we don't. Let me see. Right here. Gabe Green and Camilo. No, we don't have it. So, I mean, like, there's a lot of unknowns as far as the data for this matchup. But what I can tell you is what Gabe Green does. Gabe Green lands 6.28 strikes landed per minute. Poor accuracy of 45%. But it does mean that he's attempting almost 14 strikes per minute inside the UFC, especially when fights go long. The takedown department is something that's not really his bread and butter, 83%. 0.83 takedowns per 15 minutes. Which translates to about a takedown and a half. I'm not really sold that he's going to go the takedown route. I think he's going to try to keep the fight on the feet, out-volume his adversary. I don't know, man. We got Camilo 8 years younger. I just don't. I'll have to see Green on the scale. It's going to be a Camilo play for me. He just beat a very talented fighter. I think that he could beat Gabe Green, who's searching for answers, but definitely not an easy debut by any means.
Watching some of the highlights of his matchup there from Dana White Logan fight, he was taken down pretty easily there in the opening round, but his opponent really was just one-dimensional. So it'll be interesting to see if Gabe Green, looking at that matchup says, hey, let me try to get the fight to the ground. But as you mentioned, a key to that aspect is going to be is what does he look like on the scale come on Friday morning there in Las Vegas. Next up, we got Jared Gordon taking on Thiago Moises, straight up minus 110 on both sides this side here, as we see her on a Monday evening. Jared Gordon, 8,200 on DK. Thiago Moises is 8,000. This will be the first time we see Jared Gordon in 11 months. Up and down the past couple of years since 2022, 2-2 with 1 no contest since the start of the calendar year in 2022. Thiago Moises coming off a decision win in January back against Trey Ogden. Generally speaking, when you talk about Thiago Moises, this is a guy that he just doesn't get the wins when he takes that step up in competition. When you look at some of his losses in the UFC, Benoit Saint-Denis, Joel Alvarez, Islam Makhachev, Benil Dariush. But one of my things about this matchup is you've got a drastic difference in strikes landed per minute. Gordon 5.75, Thiago Moises 2.50. But one of the notes I had written down here, and it made me think of your algorithm, is pace. What fight is this pace going to be at? Is it going to be at the pace that Jared Gordon wants it, or is Thiago Moises going to be able to slow down the pace and force Jared Gordon to fight his fight?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jason. I'm so glad that you brought it up. It is a high-paced fighter can uncharacteristically fight a slower-paced fight to his opponent, or the high-paced fighter can get out to such a lead that the slow-paced fighter can't really catch up. I tend to always, favor the guy that's pushing the pace, because I don't think the drop-off is going to be as significant as it could. For instance, like Gordon's strikes landed per minute, 5.75, whereas Thiago Moises' strikes landed per minute is 2.5, translates to 10 strikes attempted for Jared Gordon, 6 strikes attempted for Thiago Moises per minute. I don't think that, all of a sudden Gordon's going to throw 3 less or 4 less a minute. It could happen, but I think it would have to be a result of Moises clinching him more, attempting takedowns more. And the takedowns are very, very similar. Both fighters have poor takedown accuracy, 31% for Gordon, 35% for Thiago Moises. 1.78 takedowns landed for Gordon, 1.34 for Thiago Moises. It's almost like they're going to nullify a little bit. 62% takedown defense for Jared Gordon, worst takedown defense for Thiago Moises, So, I mean, if everything stays the same, it shows me that Jared Gordon can get takedowns here. He can attempt 5.7. Moises could attempt 3.8, which could result in slightly more takedowns for Gordon. I would think that a back take, though, could change this and change the dynamics of it. I mean, Moises is 6 years younger, 2.5 inches in the height plus reach department. I'm very, very interested here. It's hard for me to see like a Bilal Muhammad and a Leon Edwards type of difference in volume, where Bilal Muhammad, let's say, for instance, is the Jared Gordon with 5.75 strikes landed per minute, and Leon Edwards, the more selective fighter, is Thiago Moises at 2.5 significant strikes landed per minute. If the high volume fighter gets off to a hot start, it's very hard and almost impossible for the low volume fighter to catch up. The high volume fighter can still catch up in these fights, if they fall behind. So for me, it's going to be Jared Gordon ever so slightly. I just think he pushes a little bit more volume. Thiago Moises, for whatever reason, I thought that he was going to translate into a dominant fighter within the top 10, top 15. Just hasn't really happened. And, Gordon, to me, he's a friend of mine. We room together. I say it every single time he fights because I always want it to be known that I'm rooting for him. He's a generalist, right? Like, he's generally good everywhere. And he tends to just be a little bit better or more well-rounded than his opponents. So for me, I think that the volume might be enough, but it's not one that I would really, really put a part of most lineups just because of my lack of conviction. I do think that the upside is there for like a Jared Gordon, though, like given what he's used to scoring in decisions. I mean, he scored 67.3 in a loss to Nasrat Haqparast. In a decision loss to Paddy Pimblett, 58.2, 100.9 for Santos. I mean, it's so much volume that it's like, for me, right? I had Manon Fiorot and Bilal Muhammad. They both lost, but they both scored above 65 points or 60-something points for Fiorot and, 78 for Bilal. Granted, those are 5-round bouts, but the principle remains the same, that even in a loss, they have a high floor. So I'm going to pick Jared Gordon here.
Yeah, I'm with you in that aspect. To me, I think from a DraftKings perspective that Jared Gordon is where I would prefer to go. If I'm going to roster this fight, that's where I want to go. But I do kind of you gotta expect that Thiago Moises is going to try to get this fight to the ground with takedowns. Next up, we got Santos taking on Lisboa. Santos a minus 135 betting favorite. She's 8,400 on DraftKings. Lisboa plus 115 and 7,800 on DraftKings. Santos had her 5-fight winning streak snap back in August at decision loss against Casey O'Neill. 2 of her 3 UFC wins have come via stoppage in the opening round. Next up, Lisboa. She's 2-0 in the UFC, but we have not seen her since October 14th of 2023, Pete.
Yeah, very weird. This fight's okay, right? Like, I think that Tainara Lisboa is going to want to keep the fight on the feet. Santos is going to want to implement some takedowns, clinch control, take her down and not have to deal with the powerful Lisboa. So, the pace of this fight is below average. The striking volume does favor Santos, oddly enough. She does have some hands to her. The attempted metrics are 8 strikes for Santos, 4.1 for Lisboa. The takedowns, Lisboa can kind of muscle people around and, attempt takedowns, but she's not the most technically skilled. 2.05 landed per 15 minutes translates to 5 takedowns attempted. She's going up against Santos, who has an 80% takedown defense rating. I think that Santos will be the one to oblige if we start clinching. She has excellent judo. I think 1.62 takedowns per 15 minutes translates to 4 per 15 minutes. I mean, it's hard for me not to see her end up in top position in a fight, other than maybe she kind of gets Yana Kudetskaya's against the cage. Like, Miesha Tate had the wrestling advantage, but Yana just kind of, picked her apart in the feet. If there was some grappling, reverse position, pushed her against the cage, kind of pressed her there. 9 years youth advantage for Santos here. 1 inch in the height plus reach department for Lisboa. Another fight, Jason, where it's like not one where I'm like truly, truly invested, or one where I really want to get behind it. I mean, it's like I think Santos does enough, but in women's MMA where I don't hold a ton of conviction on certain fighters, like I've seen Santos not look the best in certain fights. I've seen her come out flat. I've seen her deal with some, out of the octagon stuff that has distracted her. I think she's the better fighter here, but she could be at a physicality difference. I'll have to see. I want to look at the weigh-ins, but the pick will be Santos for me. I like the judoka slightly more with the hands. I think she could edge this one out.
Yeah, it's from a DraftKings perspective, really just a fight that I really don't want to get to. You kind of like, there's a couple, a couple of these fights are fights that I just really don't love the fantasy score upside. In terms of that, next up, we got the UFC debut of Yadier, who is a minus 455 betting favorite right now. We do not have DraftKings line on this matchup for his fight against Connor Matheus. Matheus a plus 350 betting underdog, so Yadier obviously going to be in that 9,000 range this week. This is his UFC debut. Of course, he came from Dana White's Contender Series, getting a win there last year. Coming out of that Fury FC system. 5 of his 8 pro fights did come in Fury FC. Also fought in Combate Global. Connor Matheus on the other side, 0-2 in the UFC. Both of those UFC losses have come via stoppage. When you look at the positive sides of when he was on the regional scene, 5 of his 7 wins did come via submission, Pete.
Yeah, very, very weird matchup here. And they don't do favors to any of these New England fighters, right? Like, my gosh. Yeah, I don't have stats on this fight yet, but it's pretty obvious that the UFC is like, all right, are you legit or not, Connor Matheus? We've given you some attempts. I root for the kid. I have friends of mine that are friends with him. Obviously, New England Cartel. I'm going to root for him. But it has not been a good UFC run at all. I mean, he got knocked out in round 1 against Jose Delgado. Knocked out in round 3 against Dennis Bazukia. Not really known for his power. Had a great performance on the Contender Series against Jair Farias. His other Contender Series bout against Francis Marshall, his first one, he got absolutely dominated in that bout. It has not been good. But outside the UFC, Connor Matheus has been really, really talented. I mean, he's been finishing people left and right. It's just the step up in competition and the strength of schedule has been pretty bad. Pretty bad. And Yadier Del Valle, a guy that is a very talented fighter, had an extensive amateur background as well, went 4-0 as an amateur, he's undefeated as a pro at 8-0. Nobody's been able to figure it out. He's going in there, grabbing guillotines, arm bars, using his ground and pound, picking up unanimous decision wins on the Contender Series. Like, this is a guy that I think is interesting. And it's one where, I'm very interested because he is undefeated. And we've already seen Connor Matheus struggle at this level. And if Matheus can't get any wrestling going, which, again, I don't know if that's the best path to victory, but it's something that he's going to have to do to not get knocked out. I don't know, Jason. I don't know, man. I think that this could be a situation where Del Valle goes out there and styles on him. Typical showcase bout in the UFC's eyes. But I'll be personally rooting for Connor Matheus. I think he does have some good wrestling to him. It's just, can he survive enough or make it grimy enough to not get finished? Because inside the UFC, it has not been pretty.
Look, you're spot on in your analysis there. If Connor Matheus does not get the win here, his time in the UFC will be over. And, I mean, look, I think it's very clear to me that he is the B-side in this matchup. They look at Yadier as a guy that, trying to develop him, young, very young in his career. I like Yadier to go out there and get the win. Then we got a female matchup. Elise Reed taking on Denise Gomes. Denise Gomes, a 6-1 betting favorite, 9,500 on DK. Elise Reed, plus 400 betting underdog, 6,700 on DraftKings. Reed 4-4 in the UFC. All of her UFC wins have come via decision. All of her UFC losses via stoppage. She's also wins and losses in the UFC, coming off a win against Jessica Penne back there in October. Denise Gomes has won back-to-back fights via decision against Mora and Kovacevic, and 4 of her 6 fights have gone the distance in the UFC. I mean, it's, she's a decision winner for the most part, but when Elise Reed can't find success, she gets finished.
Max bet Denise Gomes this week. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fool. I feel that she's going to do whatever the hell she wants to Elise Reed in this matchup. I truly, truly believe that. I know Michael Morales is a massive favorite. I know Rodolfo Bellato is a massive favorite. But, to me, Denise Gomes is, she's nasty. And she lost to Angela Hill, who is a true veteran and knows how to win and play the game over 15 minutes, outvolumes people, clinches with them, attempts takedowns, just stays busy to win decisions. And Denise Gomes scored 46.5 in that bout. She has takedowns to her. And the second I hear, she has takedowns, you're beating Elise Reed. I'm telling you right now, you're beating Elise Reed. I think that Elise Reed is a selective counter striker. Very solid right hand, karate background, doesn't kick enough for my liking. I don't think she's good. I don't. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I just don't think that Elise Reed is truly UFC caliber when we're talking the upper end of the division. If she goes out there and beats freaking Denise Gomes, then clearly, she shut me up. And I'll clearly say I was wrong. But I just don't see it. I think Denise Gomes throws more. She lands 4.55 significant strikes landed per minute, 3.5 for Elise Reed. In the attempted, we got 9.1 for Denise Gomes, 6.6 for Reed. The striking defense is pretty similar. I think the edge, if in a close back and forth striking match, it's gonna go to Denise Gomes. The power advantage clearly goes to Denise Gomes. I think she can knock Elise Reed out or knock her down multiple times and finish her on the mat. I mean, this girl has 2 knockdowns, one against Bruno Brazil, one against Yasmin Hadagui. She's gone 3 fights without a knockdown. I think she's due for a knockdown, bro. This is like betting on a player to hit a home run when they're in a drought. You know what I mean? Ain't too many games going to pass before Shohei Ohtani hits a home run. And I think that Denise Gomes is going to hit a home run right on Elise Reed's face. I think it's going to be a massive overhand right. And whether she finishes with it or she hurts her bad enough, and then that's just going to kind of open the can of I was going to say open a can of whoop ass, but it's just going to be. I think Denise Gomes is going to go out there and she can land takedowns too, right? We know Denise Gomes as a striker, but I think there are certain strikers that have better ground games than others. I think she could go out there and get a finish on the mat, whether it's ground and pound, literally like a Jessica Andrade of old. Mm-hmm. Give me Denise Gomes, one of my favorite fighters on the slate. It is women's MMA, super volatile, but I don't worry about an armbar from guard from Elise Reed. There's no jiu-jitsu there. 7 years younger for Denise Gomes. If anything, a low-volume decision win for Elise Reed, but I just don't see it, man. Give me Denise Gomes, smash of the week.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is take Denise Gomes or just move on. I don't know how anyone can have any faith in rostering Elise Reed from what you've seen in the UFC. Next up, we got Park taking on Hernandez. Park a minus 155 betting favorite, 8,500 on DK. Hernandez plus 130. He is 7,700 on DK. Park 2-0 in the UFC. He has won 8 in a row. All of them come be stoppage. This is the first time we see him since December 9th of 2023. Hernandez on the other side, he's alternating wins and losses in the UFC. He's coming off a split decision win there back in November, and 6 of his 10 pro wins have come by stoppage, Pete.
Yeah, I like this fight, right? And on my pace metric, it's the highest pace fight of the slate. Next is the Costa and Erosa fight. And it's largely due to the weight class, right? We have a flyweight bout between HyunSung Park and Carlos Hernandez. Both guys throw with decent volume. It's 4.15 strikes landed per minute for Park, 3.9 for Hernandez, so essentially even. 9.43 attempted for Park, 8.6 for Hernandez. But it's the takedowns, man. It's the takedowns where both guys have terrible accuracy in the takedown department. 27% for HyunSung Park, 21% for Hernandez. Their 1.54 and 1.6 takedowns per 15 minutes translates to 5.7 attempted for Park and 7.6 attempted for Hernandez. I think the better striker in this matchup is clearly Hernandez. So the guy that's more well-rounded will be Hernandez in this bout. But Hernandez keeps being given matchups time after time after time of fighters that will take him down. And when he gets taken down, he does work his way back up, but a lot of time there's too much time spent getting back to his feet. If he doesn't land something damaging, he loses that round. Listen to the strength of schedule of people that Carlos Hernandez has fought that want to take him down. It's ridiculous. Daniel Barres took him down 5 times on the Contender Series. Victor Altamirano, Alan Nascimento, Dennis Bondar, Tatsuro Taira, Ray Saruya, Nayam Jargo Tumandembarel. You know what I mean? Like, holy moly, what the heck is going on? This fight's crazy. And this one is where I think the better wrestler and grappler is clearly HyunSung Park, but it could be a little bit green as far as UFC competition. I mean, like, he has not faced what Carlos Hernandez has faced in the UFC. I mean, my projections favor Park here because of one thing and one thing only. It's the 100% takedown defense rating for HyunSung Park. So the 7.6 takedowns that Carlos Hernandez attempts, he doesn't get any according to the projection system right here because that's the takedown defense rating I have. But let's say we knock that down to 50%. All of a sudden, Hernandez wins this fight. So I just got to tell you, man, you got to be careful because this is one where I wouldn't want a lot of money wagered. This is one where I wouldn't want a parlay attached to HyunSung Park. I think that the higher upside clearly favors HyunSung Park. But how many times have we seen Carlos Hernandez in a grimy type of fight? We've seen it time and time again come through with a decision. So be careful here. I'm going to trust the projections, and I got to go with the model, and I got to go with the takedown defense of what we have because I have seen HyunSung Park defend takedowns. So I'll pick them ever so slightly, but just be careful. I would definitely not have anything attached to this fight.
Yeah, I mean, my just kind of concern would be that, the fact of the division it's in and whether or not we get a stoppage in the matchup, that'd be my one concern with it. Then an opening fight of the night is Tisha Pennington, who's a minus 425 betting favorite, 9,300 on DK, taking on Luana Pinheiro, who is plus 315 and 6,900 for Tisha Pennington. She's come off a decision win there back in October against Carl Esparza. But anyone who's ever watched Tisha Pennington or knows things about her, they know the stat that's about to come. She has had 21 professional fights. 19 of those fights have gone the distance. Pinheiro started 3-0 in the UFC, but she's lost 3 in a row, coming off a decision loss there back in November against Julian Robertson. Look, right when I saw the price tag of Tisha Pennington at 9,300, Pete, I was just like, holy cow, how did she pay this price tag off?
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I thought you were serious when you were talking about rostering her at that price tag. I mean, like, there's a path. There definitely is a path. I mean, there's one time where she came through against Sam Hughes. We called that fight. Short notice opportunity. She goes out there, beats the hell out of Sam Hughes, gets a first round victory. She looked great in that fight. She needs to keep the fight upright. And this is very, very similar. You got Tisha Pennington against Luana Pinheiro here. The striking volume favors Tisha Pennington, 4.82 strikes landed per minute, 3.42 for Pinheiro. Translates to 10.2 for Pennington and 8.55 for Pinheiro. So slight edge for Tisha Pennington. You know that, like, Pennington can wrestle, but it's not her best path, and it's definitely not a strong suit. It's like a complementary. It's like a close round. You get a takedown. You're not having great success. You get a takedown. You press her against the cage. 0.57 takedowns per 15 minutes. 14% accuracy, Jason. That is 4 takedowns attempted per fight. Good God, 14% accuracy. And to me, when I see that, it's almost like half-ass takedowns. So 14%, it's more to just keep you busy, keep you thinking, keep you guessing, setting up the hands, just giving a different look, fighting an MMA fight, not just a striking matchup. So when I look on the flip side, Pinheiro is going to want to get close and try to land her throws. Not going to out-wrestle Tisha Pennington, in my opinion, but she can get her trips. She can get her throws. Very, very strong in the judo department. 1.8 takedowns per 15 minutes with, again, poor accuracy. 33% accuracy means she's attempting 5.4 takedowns per 15 minutes. I have this lined as a very close fight, Jason. And it's one where, like, mentally and everything I see on paper, it's a Pennington wins this fight. No problem at all. When you start diving into the data and you start looking, you're like, wow, how is this fight so close despite the odds? Pinheiro at 6,900 might be the punt of the week as one that maybe could steal a decision win. Maybe. She's outgunned on the feet. I feel like she is somewhat of a broken fighter, though. 3-fight losing streak. Momentum all-time low. Confidence all-time low. Pennington chilling. Tons of experience. Coming off a win over Carla Esparza. One who had way better wrestling than Luana Pinheiro, but Pinheiro has good judo. 4 years younger for Pinheiro, 4 inches in the height plus reach department. Again, another trap. Be careful. I expect Tisha Pennington to win here, but that does not mean she can't lose rounds. Pinheiro can sit there and land takedowns. Pennington is not the greatest at, in the jiu-jitsu department. Like, I do think she can be controlled. I do think there are moments when she does give up her back. I don't like it when fighters abandon a whizzer. It's a long-winded way of me saying there's no way I'm laying a price on Tisha Pennington at this line. She should win the bout. Given the data that I have, it seems to be a lot closer than what the odds in the market are suggesting. So be careful here. Tisha Pennington wins, but I don't see this being a high-level, crazy volume fight. I think Pennington just wins a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the fantasy score upside. I mean, I think Pennington wins. On the betting side, the number is so wide. I mean, and the number is not going to be a great number if Pennington wins via decision. Maybe if you got a book out there that maybe has a takedown prop on this one, that's one I would kind of look at in terms of that one. Let's get into our straight fight picks before we get into some listener questions. The main event, I will go Michael Morales.
Michael Morales.
Co-main, I will go Rodolfo Bellato. I'll go with my first underdog against Sodiq Yusuff.
I'm going to go Santos, but I like the Yusuff call.
I'll go Ruziboev.
Here's my first underdog. I'm going to go Dustin Stoltzfus and close my eyes.
Give me underdog number 2 in Juicy J.
Agreed. I like Erosa.
Right now, it's going to be Matheus for me. I want to see what Gabe Green looks like on the scale, though.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be Camilo for me.
I'm going to go Jared Gordon because I just think he pushes the pace.
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. And I think that's a sharp play. I'm going to go Gordon as well.
I'll go Santos.
Regretfully.
I will go Yadier.
Oh, what's this fight? The Del Valle? Yeah, I'll go Del Valle.
I'll go Denise Gomes.
Smash spot.
Give me Park. And
Park.
give me Pennington in terms of that one. Get our score questions in here before we get into some YouTube questions. Up first, best leverage play. Without knowing what salaries are going to be or what ownership is going to be here, Pete.
What do you like?
I'd be interested to see what the Jared Gordon ownership is going to be at. Maybe in that 25-30% range. That you might get a little bit of value there. I think Stoltzfus is probably the best pump play. if you're looking for it, just because of that fantasy score upside.
Yeah, I'm going to be very scared, but I agree.
Looking at takedown upside, we mentioned about Stoltzfus because to me that is going to be the path for him to go out there and get the win. I look at Juicy J just because of what has happened in the past 3 fights for Erosa. I do wonder, Gabe Green I think could be another interesting takedown play, especially looking there. Thiago Moises maybe also another one as a takedown guy.
Yeah, I'm scared of this 8,200, 8,000 fight, right? Like, I got it right last week with Kudalaba, but I didn't get it right because of the judges.
Oh, God, what fight were they watching?
Okay, thank you.
Seriously, and this is someone who had money on Modestus. I literally, the true story, I had Modestus inside the distance. Get to the end of the second round. Pup looks at me like, I need to go outside, man. Yeah. I said, screw it. We're walking outside. He ain't going to win, be finished. Because he wasn't throwing. And then when they go 30-27 Modestus, I'm like, what fight was that judge watching?
All right, you know what we got to do? We really got to do like a fight companion. If you would like us to watch a fight together live, well, we can't do it for a card like this weekend. This is the worst thing in quite some time. But, like, we can do a pay-per-view together. I don't know how we'll figure out the dynamics of that, but that would be fun. And I know that people, the community, the Fight HQ community would love it, would love to interact with us and see our reactions because us bantering back and forth about stuff, whether we're agreeing, disagreeing. I mean, Jason and I will argue with each other like brothers. But at the same time, like, when I love it when my boy is like, he backs me up on something. I'm like, all right, I'm not crazy. Like, that should have been a Kudalaba fight. But yeah, the 8,200, right? Like, I got it right. So now I'm worried. Now I'm even more worried about Jared Gordon in this fight. It's a nightmare salary for me. I suck at it.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a tough matchup. But yeah, that last week I was just like, and then, I think Zahabi got some hometown cooking. Maybe I'm biased in that one, even though, like, look, if it ended score, I mentioned that was one of the bets I liked last week. Was I thought that it was something that stuck out to me just because it was a fight that I expected to go decision. Next question is ranking the 9K options. So we got Morales at 9,700, Denise Gomes 95, Bellato 94, Pennington 93, Ruziboev 9K. God, is Denise Gomes the number one 9K option this week?
Don't ask me that. You know my answer. My answer is yeah.
And I think it's because I would put her 1. I think I'd probably go Ruziboev 2, even though I see the potential way that could go wrong for him. Then I would say Morales 3 because of the 25-minute nature, 4 Bellato, 5 Pennington.
I'm going to go Gomez 1, Morales 2. Even though I'm picking against Ruziboev, I'm going to say he's 3. Bellato 4. I think people don't give Craig enough credit as to how tough he is. And then Pennington 5.
Next up, value plays underneath 8K. I would start right at Sodiq Yusuff at 7,900. If I'm just looking at the 7,900 to 7,500 option, I would probably go Yusuff, Erosa, Green, Lisboa, Hernandez.
You left out. You're saying 75. I like that. That's a good ranking. That's a pretty good ranking.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to want to get the Stoltzfus though.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you see the fantasy score upside, but also we've seen him get finished early on in fights too. That's always going to be a concern for me. Two
quick questions I have for you, Jason. What do you think is the score for Sodiq Yusuff if he wins? Like, what do you think? Like 7,900, do you think it's a distance fight? And then the second question is, what do you think the salaries are for the Connor Matheus and Del Valle fight? Like, what's your guess on that?
For Yusuff, I think he's probably in that 70 to 75 range because
Okay.
I do think it's a decision. I think you are going to see DeVille either 9,200 or 9,600.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's going to be an expensive fire this week. Core 3 on DraftKings this week. I think what it would be is I think I would just say screw it. Just put Denise Gomes in as the number 1. I know I'm going to need to save some salary at that point. So I would then say I would go Park at 8,500 and Juicy J at 7,500.
Okay, I'm going to say I like it. I'm going to go Denise Gomes 9,500, Juicy J 7,500. The guy's got so much experience. I like him there. And then it comes to where the hell do I go with my third fighter? Do I go high-priced option Jared Gordon, or do I just spend up and say go Michael Morales and figure it out because you still got 7,800 per fighter after that? I'll probably go with that and give me the 5-round fighter.
Yeah. Next up, we got Sam's questions here. Best top plays. I think we've kind of gone over that. I mean, Denise Gomes.
Yeah.
We've gone over that. Live dogs. I think you got to look at Dustin Stoltzfus. Probably, Juicy J, Sodiq, Yusuff. Those to me are the ones that stick out to me. Is there anyone else you want to mention?
No, I think you hit it on the nail on the head, man. What do you think Connor Matheus' salary is? Like so cheap because if he can land takedowns,
I would bet he is
66.
Yeah. Especially if they price him at 9,600. Top inside the distance fighters. I would look at both Ruziboev and Stoltzfus in that equation. Erosa and Costa, I would throw in that scenario. Denise Gomes, Yadier, Valle, I would throw in there as well.
Yeah, I like Denise Gomes from inside the distance. I think it's gonna be a long night, dude. I don't know. I think I like her and Morales.
I'll be watching after the fact, so I can fast forward through a lot of crap.
Yeah, my buddy does that often. I don't know if I have the patience to do that. I kind of like get the updates, and I need to know now.
Yeah. Best decision odds of fighters. Well, just start off Tisha Pennington. Let's just start there.
Jared Gordon.
Yeah. Santos Lisboa, I think has a good chance going the full 15. Main event, co-main event, I can see going either way. You really can.
Yeah, 25 minutes is a long time to fight.
Yeah. So. We talked about value plays here. To me, the value plays I really look at is Stoltzfus at 7,200, Erosa 7,500. Gabe Green could be interesting at 7,600 if he goes the takedown route, which I kind of imagine they watched that film on UFC Fight Pass.
I got to go back and watch that fight. I missed that fight. I didn't see that because if it's a glaring hole, I'm going to start doing some more social diving, and that's where our Discord channel, you guys got to get into the Discord, and that's where I'd be like, all right, I watched some more tape, and I like that path for him, but it's a great call, Jason.
Punt plays. In cash, I would say Gilbert Burns. GPPs, maybe it's Paul Craig. Maybe he's able to find his way into a submission, but Paul Craig's going to be a boom bust no matter what. Yeah,
I'm not a Paul Craig guy.
Best parlay combos. I want to see what some of these prop bets end up being later on this week, but if you're talking about just like a straight up money line play, give me Sodiq Yusuff at plus 110, and then I would pair him with Erosa and Gordon, and that'll give you a nice three-legger.
I like that a lot.
Highest leverage at the 8K range. Thiago Moises may be. I think Moises and Costa, I think, would be your leverage plays in that range.
Costa, yeah, you're completely correct, because if you go box score watching, you're gonna see, like, underdog Juicy J comes through a lot. Jared Gordon, high pace, comes through a lot. So I think the call on both of those is very sharp. I agree.
In the captain contest and MVPs, I would stay away from Michael Morales. I would stay away from Bellato. There's not a lot, there's not that huge takedown person I really look at where it goes 3 rounds and you can really rack up a lot of points. So I think you're looking at those fights that you think are going to end and finish.
Yeah, I got to look and see what Gabe Green weighs on fight night in his previous welterweight fights. Because if he was just walking around at like 175, 180, just like being one of those minimalists in the cutting, he's going to be just a normal 55er. And it could be a sharp play. I mean, the guy has pace for days. So I kind of have to see. And, backing the veterans tends to be a very, very, very smart decision.
Sam's number for finish on this fight card, 6.5. Give me the under.
Yeah, less.
Yeah, I just kind of like you. This card just kind of feels like it's got a lot of decisions written all over it. Of course, that's going to go down on Saturday. Of course, as Pete mentioned, we do have our Discord channel. A link to that is in the description of this show. Of course, totally free to join. We'll have a DraftKings contest. Look for that tomorrow. I'll put the link for that in the show notes for the podcast. Also, I will put that in Discord as well. Of course, Pete's got his Patreon page. The link to that is in the description below. You can sign up for that. Get all of Pete's tools that he has over there as that channel just continues to grow.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate the Fight HQ Discord. Appreciate you guys on the YouTube community and a part of the Patreon, man. Very, very, to my surprise, phenomenal support. Can't thank you guys enough. And hopefully this is just the beginning, because I think a lot of people are finding it to be helpful, including myself. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button before you head out. Get us to 150 likes. And as always, it's a pleasure to work with my man, Jason Floyd, over here breaking down the UFC fights.
And as I am pretty sure on this one, we do not have a UFC card next week. I'm pretty positive on that one.
Oh, no.
Yeah, our next UFC card will be May 31st. Which is the Blanchfield versus Barber Fight Night card from the Apex before we get into June, which will be right there the first Saturday in June. Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley 2. And then, of course, right around that time, PFL gets back up and going with the welterweights and featherweights. I will say this, that June 12th card, Jason Jackson, Thad Jean is going to be an interesting matchup there.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm going to lean with the veteran, Jason Jackson. I understand Thad Jean's looked great. He's good. Give me Jason Jackson. Give me Jason Jackson.
Massive step up in competition. Massive step up in competition.
Give me Jason Jackson, man. I mean, the kid talks a good game. I think Thad Jean has the finishing potential for sure. Mm-hmm. But Jason Jackson's damn good. I mean, he's beaten and fought very, very tough opposition. Jason, real quick, I just want to tell you, the one thing that I've always wanted to do is go to International Fight Week. So maybe we hit one of these tournaments, we take it down, and then I would love to go to International Fight Week. It's always been something I wanted to do. Just get away and go enjoy a ton of UFC fights. I feel like the energy around that, the experience would be pretty unforgettable and definitely right up my alley. So that's in July, right? Don't they always do them in July?
It'll be last week in June, June 28th. That's Saturday, I want to believe, is what it's going to be. Okay. Of course, I would imagine we'll have an announcement here pretty soon. I can't see Jack Della Maddalena turning around and defending the title that quick against Islam Makhachev. Maybe he does take the fight against Ilia Topuria and defends a 155-pound title. Magomed Ankalaev has a tweet out there saying that he's been offered International Fight Week and he's just waiting for Poatan to accept the matchup.
These guys leak shit. It's crazy. Oh my god.
I think it is a way of, there's probably negotiations going on, and that the management of Ankalaev knows that the UFC and Alex may not be seeing eye to eye, quote unquote, he got hacked.
Yeah. My buddies don't believe that at all. Like imagine getting hacked. Imagine getting hacked and just putting out a very like modest tweet, like saying that, not doing anything else, not going crazy, and then just like, I don't know.
Yeah. I tend to believe that is probably there's probably some
I got hacked.
Negotiations that probably aren't going well financially, especially the fact that when you're not the champion, and it just really tells you. I saw this interesting clip earlier today where Demetrius Johnson was talking about when he was going to defend the flyweight title against TJ Dillashaw, and he said part of his negotiations that he wanted in it was he knew TJ was never going to make 125. Knew he would never make 125. And he said, he goes, I want it to be when he didn't make 125, we're fighting for the 135-pound belt, and the UFC wouldn't go for it.
I remember hearing that clip. Smart man. Very smart man. Yeah. I mean, how the hell do you as a business and fight promotion piss off Poatan? Like he lost. Okay, big deal. But like, come on.
I just think it's another example of it's about the three letters, and they know someone will always step up for them.
Yeah, but he saved their ass time and time again. And it's like you're appreciated one day, and then the next day you're forgotten or you're not appreciated again. And it's like, oh, how quickly they forget. And I don't blame I don't blame Alex that was a real reaction at all. I mean, I imagine bending over backwards for the company, doing everything, fighting through injuries, fighting with crazy injuries, fighting while you're sick, all for that. And like you lose a fight, you want to, get it back. You set some demands or you set some standards, and then it's like, well, hey, excuse me, Mr. Alex, you just lost your last fight, so you're not going to be getting what you're expecting you're getting financially. And it's just like, what the hell?
And it probably comes down to losing pay-per-view points. That's probably where, Alex has probably made a decent amount of money, over the last year, and a guy who's constantly step up, and, whether he's injured or not. And this is unfortunately, this is the crappy part of the UFC fight business. And we'll see what happens. So, but
I'm excited. I can't wait to see it.
Of course, we're here every week of a UFC fight card, so we'll talk to you in 2 weeks. We'll get you ready for the next UFC fight night card. Until then, we'll talk to you later.